Like, it's the perseverance. Just don't give up. You know, at the end of the day, what you were created to do, you will become, as long as you don't grow weary and faint. Like, and I'm talking to me too. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? You got to be able to have grit and
mm,
just go when people are telling you no. And what's funny is the closest people to you, not even knowing, will say things that just cut you. And you're like,
mm.
well, you know what I'm saying? Okay, do I need to? But to be able to have enough oomph in you to say, I believe this is going to happen and I'm just going to keep going. Like,
Welcome to Show Your Receipts, where we believe if you can see it, you can be it. Receipts are evidence or proof that something has occurred. Our guests are evidence that Black excellence is alive and well. They will be sharing their receipts on how they've been able to accomplish so much in their life. I'm your host, Tony Jackson. Let's get started. Welcome to Show Your Receipts, where we believe if you can see it, you can be it. I'm super excited about our guest today. I'm going to read her incredible bio. Our guest, Megan Jackson, is an award-winning author, syndicated writer, and producer. She is the co-founder of Write Publishing House and host of the TV documentary series Everyday Heroes, Black History Month edition, aired on CBS affiliates across Philadelphia, New York, and Dallas. She is renowned for her fervor in educating women and children about the potency of their words and which has earned her a vast, diverse following and established her as a pivotal voice on the broad, influential platform. Megan is unwavering in her commitment to empowering women to craft lives that resonate with their deepest desires. Megan has an Associate of Arts degree from Tarrant College, a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism from the University of North Texas, and a master's degree in business administration from Albertina University. And we have her here today.
yeah,
Welcome, Megan.
thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. It is exciting to have you here today. I'm going to hop right into it. As an award-winning author and speaker, they say that the problems we solve, the money that we earn are oftentimes in direct connection to the problems that we're able to solve.
Right.
And so talk to me about being an author and a speaker. What caused you to want to become an author and a speaker? And what are the specific issues and problems that you speak to as you're writing and as you're speaking?
Yeah. Woo, loaded question. So, when I'm asked what made you want to become an author or a speaker, it was not something that I sought out. It was one of those things, one of those God things that just, you know how he works. He kind of like drops a nugget in you and you're like,
Right.
that's interesting. You know what I mean? You
Mm-hmm.
ponder on it for a little bit and you're like, let's go. And as you begin to walk it out, it becomes this passion. I like to say that we don't know honestly who or what it is that we were really created to do until we connect to the source. And
Mm-hmm.
as we stay connected to the source, these little downloads start happening and you just become. And so oftentimes, even now, I look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm loving life right now. I
Mm-hmm.
would have never imagined to be an author or even a speaker, but it's just something that obviously I was created to do. It comes very naturally for me. And yeah, so I can't give like a definitive of like, it was in this moment or this is how this kind of transpired. It was just being a open and willing vessel and
Mm-hmm.
saying, you know what, I want to do whatever I was designed to do. And I want to go to the grave empty. You know what I mean?
That's right. Absolutely. So let's dig into the book. Words are magic.
Yeah.
What is the premise behind the book? And what is your goal for this book? What do you want little kids when they read this book? What do you want them to get from it?
Great question. So the premise behind the book really is pulled from scripture, really, that life and death is in the power of the tongue, and they
Mm,
eat the fruit thereof. So it
mm,
just goes to teach children these spiritual principles. Like I like to say a lot of times, if we would have known how powerful our words were as children and began practicing that as adults, a lot of us, our lives would be very, very different right now. You know what I mean? We are living the seeds sown from whatever it was that we speak to this day,
mm.
you know? And so my goal when children read the book, when parents, really my goal and my prayer is that when parents read the book, they get checked like, okay, it starts here, right? Because it starts even with us as parents, as adults,
Absolutely.
and then they begin to practice it and it becomes a way of life at home. I want children, I always say when I wrote the book, I said, Lord, let these seeds be sown. Every child that reads it, let that be a deposit. You know what I mean? And then parents come and water that seed. But I want children to be able to start speaking life, start saying positive words, something
Mm,
as simple, Tonya, as like, oh, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. In my house, we always say we're taking on healing or we're on the healing journey. Just
mm,
things to begin as a practice so that children can really create the dream and the life that they want to live, and live prosperous. That is
mm,
really my goal. It helps with self-confidence. It helps with peer pressure. I mean, there's so many little levels, bullying, all of that. You know what I mean? It all
mm.
starts with what we're speaking. And so that's what I hope that children as well as parents will gain from the book. And I did it in a magical way. So all of that meat is in a fairy tale journey. So it's one of
Mm.
those that's like subliminal. Wait, you don't really know. Parents know, but kids, they're just on
Yeah,
a journey. And that's the point of it all.
absolutely. Let's dig into that a little bit because you mentioned the parents. You mentioned that this book is not specifically designed for the kids to get an impact, but also for the parents to get an impact. Growing up in the Black community, you hear somebody talking about their kids and they'll say, he bad, or,
Yes.
she fast, or all of these different things.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the, I was going to use the word responsibility, but talk to me about I'll just use the word responsibility, the responsibility that parents have
Mm.
to recognize that words are magic and the importance of speaking into their children's lives.
Yeah. So I'll say it like this. Most parents, if not all, they want their children to be better than they were. You know what I mean? We fail fast so that we can go back and teach our children, okay, hey, this is the way in which you should go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I think it is our responsibility. It is our due diligence, as my dad says, reasonable service to teach our children how impactful their words are. Not to even go too far into church and all that, but if you look in Genesis, everything was formed from words when he spoke.
Mm.
And we are created in the image of God. So
That's right.
naturally, he literally designed us in that manner. Speak it,
Mm-hmm.
believe
Mm-hmm.
it, and you're going to see it. And so
Mm-hmm.
if we want children who are fortified, who know who they are, aren't, surrounded with peer pressure, me and my boys are 3 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a prayer every morning. And the prayer is literally declarations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because even now, my 3-year-old, I'll say, Ellis, you can't do that. And he'll say, Mommy, I can do anything. And I'm like, right,
Mm.
but we're not going to do that. I love that because it's showing
Yeah.
me picking up what it is that
Mm.
we're depositing.
Yeah. And he stole the show on the interview that you did too.
He so did. He
It
had a whole lot to say.
walked out there with confidence. He was going to take over that interview if you would have let him. He was going to take that interview over. Let's talk about you being this author and this speaker. So many people, I'll speak for myself personally. I'm highly impressed. When you hear somebody say they're an author, we hear somebody say they're a professional speaker. Talk to me about the lifestyle, what it means to be author and speaker. How did you get involved in it? In case, let's say there's somebody here who's watching this and they're like, you know what? I'm passionate about something. I feel called to write about a specific topic or speak about a specific topic to help people out. What was the process like to actually get a book published,
Yeah.
to actually become a speaker? And what does that day, and what does that look like? Is this something where you're getting up every day, you're writing, or you finish writing, so now you're spending your time promoting the book and you're reaching out to different outlets? Like, how does that look?
Ooh, good question. So for me, I'm actually a publisher as well. So my brother and I own Wright Publishing House. And so we have several different clients that we help go through this publishing journey. You've got a area where it's like a DIY, where it's do it yourself. So we're going to bake it all out and say, okay, here you go. You know, you could take it, and then they hit us up like, I got stuck here, there. And then we have where, of course, we'll take it on, and we've got employees that go in and do the artwork, the designing, the editing. We do ghostwriting in the nine. So for me, when I started this process, it was really interesting because, like I said, it was just like a download. My background is journalism, though. So my degree is in journalism. So writing was very natural to me, you know, writing press releases and things like that for corporate America came very, very easy. So as I began writing, it was a natural kind of piece for me. You know what I mean? But I understand that the publishing route sometimes seems scary. And we actually took a chance and did things differently. Like a lot of times, self-published authors think they have to go through this platform called Ingram Sparks. And as a matter of fact, Tony, Ingram Sparks, it is just a company that is partnered with tons of bookstores. And a lot of bookstore owners are like, you must go through Ingram Sparks or we're not going to take your book. I mean, that's pretty much. And so we have a lot of clients that have gone that route, but then see that they've spent so much money, they're not getting return on investment because 9 times out of 10, unfortunately, you write a book, you sell maybe 150 copies. That's in a lifetime, right? So that's a stat. Yeah. And so going up against those odds, we were like, we're not going the Ingram route. My brother, he has several years of law school. So he already had that background. He's a contracting officer for the government. And so I had a lot of things already in my hand that I didn't even know until I had this book. You know what I mean? So I would say for those who are interested in writing a book, start writing. Writers write. You know what I mean? And so I think the idea sometimes is I'm not a good writer, so I can't do it. Or I'm not creative, so I can't do it. When you begin to write, the creativity just pours. So I would say, keep writing, keep practicing. Speakers speak, writers write, dancers dance. Like if that is what you were created to do it. And as you begin to walk that thing out, you'll see the pieces start flowing together. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
In regards to like the day in the life, so different every single day, right? So on the outside, it very much looks like, girl, this is popping. You got Tabitha Brown, got your book, and you know what I mean?
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
It does. It's like, woo, this is popping. But even with that, there's so much ground that was laid prior to that. That's sending out emails. That's me getting on video. I video pitch so much. I'll see someone, Tony, and I will pitch in a minute. I'm like, hey. and so it's really building that confidence and understanding that every door is not meant for you to walk through. It's being okay with rejection. You know, we see the highlight, but the low moments are low. And you can get door after door after door closed. And it just, it feels like, Lord, why would you put me out here like this? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Right. So every day is different. It's like client meetings. I've got another book that poured out of me again at 3 a.m. And so I'm working to finalize that children's book. It is different speaking gigs, author visits. So, I mean, every day is very, very different. So it's hard to pinpoint, but I like to just kind of set up the week, get it orderly, and then understanding also being a mom that stuff is going to just do what it do and we just go rock with it. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. You said so much there, so much to unpack. You obviously mentioned that writers write, speakers speak, dancers dance. I love that. But talk to me about even going a little bit step further to do what you do, to be an author, to be a speaker, to be an entrepreneur. You know, you own your own publishing company. What skill sets are required? And I guess when I say skill set, I'm not saying like you need to be able to write, you need to be able to speak, but like, you know, what kind of interpersonal skills do you need to have as far as being able to deal with failure and perseverance, and all of those things? Like because some people may think I can do this top level skill, I can write. Right. So I must be able to start a publishing company and do all these other things. You know, it's kind of like people say, oh, I can cut hair. So I can be a barber. I can start my own barbershop, but it may be a little bit more into it. So Talk to me about the skill set that's required to actually be able to do what you do.
Yeah, so good, Tony. That was good. I would say be able to connect. So if you are someone who does not like to talk with folk and connect with people, this path is probably not for you. You need to be able to get out of your shell, connect with people, find like minded things to where you're able to say, hey, I'm feeling that, or I understand that. Even with my clients, when we meet, as they're sharing their story idea, I'm always listening. So be a good listener where you're able to say, ooh, that was a good point. I'll piggyback on that, later on in this part. So connectivity would definitely be one. Perseverance, confidence. I'm going to just say the ability to have that growth mindset, understanding that things change. So flexibility, being able to make a plan and understand that there is going to be pivot. And I think the main one, Tony, is just like, it's the perseverance. Just don't give up. You know, at the end of the day, what you were created to do, you will become, as long as you don't grow weary in vain. Like, and I'm talking to me too. You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to have grit and just go when people are telling you no. And what's funny is the closest people to you, not even knowing, will say things that just cut you. And you're like, you know what I'm saying? Okay, do I need to? But to be able to have enough oomph in you to say, I believe this is going to happen and I'm just going to keep going. Like, I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to keep going. And so grit, grit, grit. Like, and then you know what? Finding your circle, your tribe, people who are just like you, going after passion, not being able to see it, but see it. I have a friend got to see it in order to see it. You know what I mean? And so having that circle of people who are like, you're having a rough day or you're feeling low, that they can pick you up for real. Be like, sis, nah, I know how you're feeling and that's okay to feel, but let's move on. So that goes back to connectivity. You cannot be a lone shark in this space. You've got to be able to get out and to touch. It was set up in that way. Nobody builds a company alone. You've got to have that community.
Absolutely, absolutely. And man, just talking to you, Megan, you exude this confidence. I mean, you have so much going for you. You have the family, you have the business, you have the books, you have a lot going on. And from a person from the outside perspective, it's like, man, this almost seems unattainable. If it may be somebody who's watching this who wants to be an author, wants to be a mother, wants to be a wife, wants to do all of these things. Talk to me about the concept of work-life balance. I know a lot of people have different takes on it. I've had some people say, no such thing. I've had some people say, well, this is how I approach it. How are you juggling so much? I mean, you got the Tabitha Brown thing coming. I heard the teaser on the interview that the book may be in some retail play. All of this stuff going on. I'm just getting so much from talking to you in the short amount of time we've been talking thus far. How are you balancing all of this?
Tony, that's so funny. That is something that I've been praying and talking to the Lord about, is that balance, right? I also lead worship at my church and am very involved in that as well. So there's so many hats that I do wear. And what I would say about balance is you decide what balance looks like for you. So some days the balance is being a mom and that is it. You know what I mean? I've got to put the business stuff aside because, maybe Ellis is a little more whiny this week and I don't know what's going on, but he needs mama's attention, or Ezra needs mama's attention. Maybe it is just being a wife, and that's something that I am really working at, trying to make sure that my husband still has my time too. You know what I mean? But then also making sure the business doesn't slide. One thing that I've learned, particularly around this, is that God does not need our help. A lot of times I felt like I had to just work. I still feel like that. Okay. So I'm preaching to me right now. He doesn't need our help. You know what I'm saying? If you need to tend here and understand that the seeds and the work that you've done, it will profit fruit. Like it's going to profit. God's not going to send you out here to look crazy, especially when you repping him. Like that ain't going to
Right.
happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But balance is what you make it, you know?
Mhm.
It's really to me about boundaries. And I think that is the part that a lot of us forget about. You know, it's like, okay, I got to do this, 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 this. I actually hate to do lists, Tony, because I'll put everything on that list and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
got to get done. So I
Yeah.
started just being like, what are the 3 top priorities that must be done today? You know what I mean? For work. And if I can hit those 3, I'm going to feel real good. But
Mhm.
understanding that every single day looks different and balance, I'm not going to say it's not real because I think there is an ebb and flow to balance. It's just contingent on what that looks like day to day. So make a
Mhm.
plan, but again, be flexible, understanding that it may pivot a little bit. Yeah, that was hard. That was because I'm
Well, work in progress. We get real time feedback here.
yeah,
And so, wow, you mentioned earlier you talked a little about your brother, and him being a lawyer background, and you guys working together in the publishing company. You mentioned your father and
yeah,
some of the things that he, some words of wisdom that he's giving you to live by.
yeah.
Obviously, your parents have to be extremely proud of you and your brother. They've done a phenomenal job. Shout out to mom and dad.
Yeah.
I would love for us to go back. Let's talk about early childhood influences. Were you this amazing, dynamic, verbal ninja as a young kid? Were you
Yes, I
eh,
looked that
were,
up.
were you in the room, at night, head in the book, reading or writing all the time? Were you that kid, or were you a great student? Were you involved in a lot of stuff, social? Who were your influences? We want to hear all about it.
So going back, funny, we don't oftentimes go back to even think of the journey, right? My parents are pastors
Mm,
and I grew up overseas. So I grew up in Japan and in England, moved back here to go to college here in Texas.
mhm,
And my dad was very, very strict. I
mhm.
mean, he was in the military as well. So he had,
Double dose of strictness.
yo, yo, like real sergeant and then heavy on the like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was a whole lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Growing up. I love my dad now. We are tight, but growing up, I was like, you are not cool.
Yeah.
Um, and then
But
my mom
let me jump in here before you go any further. Was that a good thing? Like, because the results speak for themselves.
was a blessing. It was
Mm,
a blessing. But
mm,
as a kid, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are you this wild with it? You know what I
yeah.
mean? Um, but I'll say this. There's there's a good thing in balance because my mom was very soft and nurturing. She's a nurse. And so she did nursing, but then she would stay home too for long periods, especially in England.
Yeah.
And that balance was beautiful because I think too much of one or the other could have been detrimental. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Excuse me. And so I had a very good balance, grew up in church. I never really strayed from church, but we do go hot, cold, hot, cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got
Yeah.
over, went cold a little bit, did whatever, came
Mhm,
back and was like, all right, I think this is where I want to be and
mhm,
was able to really latch on to that. But
mhm,
as a kid, I was always very, very diligent. I got my homework done. I got my studies done. I never wanted to be in trouble. I played basketball. So I was all European. That's like all state here in
oh,
Texas.
wow.
Yeah, here in the US, but overseas
Yeah.
it's called all European. So ninth
Uh,
grade, got bumped up to varsity, was an excellent,
What?
yeah, excellent basketball player. And to the point where I really should have played in college, but I was so exhausted with basketball. I was
Mhm,
like, nah, I'm good. Kind of wish I
mhm,
would have, but you know, didn't want to go that route, but very, very diligent. I didn't want to get in trouble. And so I was just the good kid to a fault. because there was a lot of responsibility that was always on me. I've got brothers and sisters that are twins. At 7, I'm sitting here changing it. Like my mom tells the story where she's like, I didn't even have to raise the kids because, you all did it, you know. It was real cute and funny, but as I got older, I was like, that was too much. That was so much responsibility that young. And so it's even to this point made me so just it's what is the word? Just dotting I's, crossing T's, perfectionist is what it is.
Mm.
And that's the piece that I know even now the Lord is trying to break of me, where, you don't have to be perfect. It's okay to let things just fall. Like you really don't have to be that perfect. So I was the good girl, and I made sure to be that. Did not want to disappoint my parents, especially my dad. I always looked for their approval. Again, good and bad, right? Because as I got older, I felt like I couldn't make decisions because I was like, Dad,
Mm.
what do you think? You think this is a good idea, Mom? Would you, And if they were like, no, we don't, I was like, okay, well, what should I do? Like it was so bad that I couldn't make a decision. And
Mhm.
so I had to get to the point where it's almost false confidence, right? Where
Mm.
outwardly I was very outspoken, but inwardly suffered from rejection and from I need my parents to really, really love. There was 5 of us, so
Mm.
I need them to always feel like Megan's the good girl. She's going to do the right thing, and so it was performing a lot. You know what I mean? And so it really carried on into adulthood. I just had to sharpen that to understand, hey, you can be full present, full you, but you don't need anyone's approval. Like
Mm.
when God says yes, that's it. You don't need anyone's approval. And so it was a process to walk that out and
Yeah.
define my footing. But definitely my parents, they were my shining star. You know what I mean? They,
Mm.
they pointed the way forward. And, I listened to a lot of inspirational, like worship music and I love like even growing up watching like just stories of how people made it. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And I would be
Mhm.
so inspired. So even as a little girl, I always knew something is different about me. And I don't know what it is, but mediocrity does not fly. Like I don't want to
Mm.
be mediocre. I don't want just enough. Even in the corporate space, once I hit mid 6 figures, it was empty. And I'm like, Lord, what
Mm.
is this? Why? What is this? And it
Mm.
was just never being complacent. Understanding, even as a little girl, we're shooting for the top and we're not stopping until we get there. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And so I know that's something that God had to have placed in me very, very young. But creativity was always there. I used to pretend to do hosting and, we would have red carpet events and I wanted to be an actress. And so all of that was always there.
Yeah,
It just funneled into how it funneled into as an adult.
absolutely. And so you mentioned London, England.
Yeah,
What age were you when you came to the US?
I was 19.
You were 19. So you were basically raised for the most part in England.
In
So let
England and Japan, yeah, those 2.
it England and Japan. So, oh wow, okay. So let's dive into that. England and Japan. First Japan, then England. Talk to me about what your experience was like in Japan and England as a African American woman. Did you experience any unique challenges in school, just out and about with you being who you are, your beautiful brown skin, your natural hair? Was this a issue there?
So, I was a child when I was over there. I moved, like I said, when I was 19 here. I was around other military kids. In Japan, we had a community. My dad was a pastor over there. So we had a church. We had Japanese come. I'll tell you this, Japan is it's amazing. They are the kindest humans I have ever I would say they're probably the kindest humans I've ever met in my life. Like they're just very, very kind people. We would wear braids and we'd go to Disneyland and they'd swarm just, oh, quiet, and they're like pulling all in your hair. So you feel like a little pet from time to time, you know.
Yeah.
But they were very kind about it. So there
Mhm.
was no real issue there. England, I was not a fan of England.
Mm.
I did not like it. It's very dreary. The people weren't as kind. I think going to Japan first kind of, jolted
Yeah.
me because I
Yeah.
got used to just how sweet and kind and humble they were. We lived off base in England. And so, we would have some of our British like kids that we would hang with, and they call us little twats. And, they didn't really care for Americans in their area. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But honestly, Tony, the feelings of like blackness and all of that, I didn't feel that till I moved to America. It was in
Really?
in Texas here that I realized, oh, you black for real, for real. You know what I mean? Because over
Yeah.
there, we're all just people, and it's
Yeah.
a melting pot, you know. But here, I mean, first time I got called nigger, first time, got called, your hair's nappy, is right here in Texas. And
Mm.
I remember my husband, then boyfriend at the time, I was like, what is up with these people? And he was looking at me like, girl, what you mean? This how it is.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I moved here that I was like, wow, okay, I'm black. Got it. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And had to kind of process that because we were very sheltered.
Mm. Let's dig into that because it seems like in Japan, in England, like you said, you were just a person,
Yeah.
and it seems like coming to the US, coming to Texas, it was almost like an extra burden that you had to carry. Or I guess the question I have for you, was it a burden or was it almost like an enlightening experience? Like, oh, this is who I am? Or
Right.
was it like, wow, this is who I am and this is the cross I have to carry because this is who I am?
I think both, right? So I initially it was just shock that people actually treat people certain ways based on color of skin and look. Like that was so foreign to me. And so initially it was just shock and then sadness, right? Of like, what in the world? Like, why do people do this? And then it came into this transformation of, yo, I'm black. I'm proud. Even as kids, my dad, that he was the one that made us sit down and watch Roots. Like he was very much,
Yeah.
you gonna know your history. We are proud black family, and it is what it is. That he's the one that really instilled that in us as kids, and as I got older, even now in my 30s, being black is freaking dope. Like it's
Right.
the coolest thing popping.
Right.
And
Right.
I didn't know that even in my 20s, I would straighten my hair for job interviews, right? Different things to make sure that I fit the bill. And
Mhm.
it really wasn't until maybe 5, 6 years ago that I went natural, and I was like, yo, it is what it is. And my son's got natural hair, both my boys.
Yeah.
And yo, let's go. I ain't,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, no, that's awesome. So let's talk about your college experience. So when you're in the States now, you're starting college. Did you always know, like, I want to start this journalism path because I know I want to do something in the speaking and the writing world? Was that something that you kind of fell into? And then also, what was the culture shock like? Now you're in the US, you're black.
Yeah.
Now you're on this college campus.
Yeah.
You've been in a very structured
Bubble.
bubble, a
Yeah.
structured environment. You got a drill sergeant bishop at home, and you got a lot. What was that transition like coming from abroad and going to college here in the States?
Yeah, so when I moved here, I moved out in 2 months, got an apartment. I was like, "Peace, I'm out of here." Met my now husband, then boyfriend. We was living life, doing whatever we wanted to do. Ain't had no money, racking up credit cards, just doing what it did, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And it was fun, and it was a mess, but it was fun.
yeah,
Yo,
yeah.
but going to college, it was interesting because I didn't really get that like college experience because I
Mm,
worked, because I went and got a doggone apartment, and I shouldn't
yeah.
have done that. But hey, so I had to work and go to school. So I was commuting on and off, and went to school for journalism. Now at UNT, University of North Texas, they make
Mhm.
you take a test to test into journalism. I hate tests. Like they just freak me out. I don't ever do well. I remember my ACT in high school. I went to sleep. Like I started it and then I just went to sleep. I was like, I got a 3.7. I don't need this. Then when it
Yeah.
went to sleep, I was like, I got a basketball game later. Didn't worry about it. And my dad was like, when he got the score, he was like, I think it was like a 13. I don't know what it was, something psychotic. And my dad was like, baby, you are not going to college with this score. And I was like, well, I got a
Mhm.
3.7. Like, I'll be all right. You know what I mean? And no, sure enough, I got zero entries into college everywhere. Bing, 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 bing. Like, no. And I
Wow.
was devastated, and so my dad's like, "Well, take the test again." Well, my confidence was so low anyway that
Mhm.
really I went to sleep because I didn't think I was gonna pass it anyway. So I was like, "I'm not even
Mhm.
gonna take it." So fast forward, did go to college. I had to go the junior college route, but did go
Mhm.
to college and we've got this GSP, which is grammar, spelling, punctuation. And I remember I failed twice. You get 3 shots. And I remember I prayed and I told the Lord, if you want me to go into journalism, you're gonna have to help me pass this test. If this ain't it, then fine. You got to show me what else I'm supposed to do. And
Mhm.
so went in and passed the test by I think it was like 4 or 5 points. And I was like, yo, let's go. And then from there, went into the broadcast space. And I actually, after I graduated, so I did internships with like CBS Sports Radio here in Dallas, Channel 33, got an offer with NBC5. So got some really cool exposure. And
Mhm.
after that, I started a company. Actually, I was 25 and it was called Fame MC. And that was Fashion Arts Music Entertainment. And MC was Megan Carradine because that's my
Mhm.
maiden name. And
Mhm.
so I started a broadcast company where I would go out in Dallas and I would interview celebrities. I was invited to red carpet events, big
Mhm.
mansions, folks driving in with these butterfly doors. I mean, at the top of the game. And this, Tony, is before bloggers were like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, you know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
I'm on the front end of the scene. A lot of
Mhm.
times, like I would go to these Neiman Marcus events, getting these huge goodie bags of just gifts, and I would be like, "How did I get in this room? Like this is
Yeah.
crazy."
Yeah. Yeah.
But Fame, it just popped. It took off, got a
Mhm.
huge following, and really, I just burnt out of it. I was so
Mhm.
exhausted. And I was like, well, I can't do this. I was trying to get my master's degree. And so I let that fizzle and die. That was my first taste of entrepreneurship. And
Mhm.
so I loved it though. And so then I started doing just more freelance stuff. And that's how I fell into the syndicated writing for the Black History film. So I will host it. It's every February. I'll host it. And sometimes I'll do the producing where I'll be in the back end of it. But it is something that I do as like through contract, and we're able to push that out all over. I think it's CBS syndicated, if I remember correctly. So it's like Philly, New York, Cali, Chicago. And so just really cool things that popped from journalism. And I believe one day it's all going to come full circle and I'll be able to go the journalism route again. I just, I don't know. I'm really just following his path and his plan. Hopefully that answered your question.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I wanted to kind of dig in a little bit more. It's clear that you have an affinity for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about that because traditionally, when people think journalism, they don't necessarily think entrepreneurship. They think that, the dream job is you work for some big publication, some big TV channel, and, you kind of ride off into the sunset. Maybe you write some books, but, so talk to me about why do you feel like entrepreneurship is important to you and maybe even important in general to young aspiring African-American professionals or entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So, I believe entrepreneurship is a must have. So, even if you've gotten your corporate job, I just believe having something on the side. Historically, as Black folks, we couldn't have anything, we had no ownership of anything. And so, I think now at 2023, and then even biblically speaking, it is our birthright. Inheritance is our birthright. And so I believe if you're not creating or owning something, you're leaving something on the table. Your gifts that were put in you was not just to bust it out for the man to get rich and to make a profit off of. It was for you and your family to be blessed by the work of your hands and for generations to be blessed. And so I think that it's important that children as well as adults, we go into that space of, what can I own? The Bible says that the Lord owns a cattle on 1,000 hills. I was standing out on my parents' porch. They live out in this country area. And I was just looking off and I'm like, cattle on 1,000 hills belongs to the Father, and we are his children. It is our inheritance. Where is my land? Like, you know what I'm saying? My trust, because it literally belongs to you. Through Wright Publishing House, we have a program called the Young Writers Lab, where it's a 10-week curriculum, 10-week program where we teach children how to write a children's book. And we go through framework, character, plot, setting, all these things. And at the end, they come out as published authors. And then we have a program that's called the Young Entrepreneurs Program. So they can literally take that book that they just published and we'll teach them, this is how you market that book. This is how you make this book into something that is going to produce revenue and money for you, like a stream. You know what I mean? And so I've found that my life's calling is to not only walk it out, but walk it out so that those behind me, the babies, can say, okay, I can and I will. You know what I mean? And it's going to be tough because, as we know, the enemy is after the youth. He's after the seed, the next generation. And it's really the reason why I'm after him too. Like, let's go. You know what I mean? Entrepreneurship, owning, understanding financial literacy, all these things that plague the Black community. It's time for us entrepreneurs who are in the space to open our mouths and start sharing and pulling these kids out, pulling people out. I'm not saying if you're in the corporate space, cool. There's people that love that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so for me, I did it. It was cool when it was cool. And it was really finding out who I was. I believe every single person should be an entrepreneur in some capacity.
Absolutely. That's amazing, Megan. Just listening to you, what's amazing about what you're doing, Megan, is your entrepreneurship is powered by a mission. You are literally trying to not just make a dollar, but make a difference. And so that is incredible. And to look back and to look at all that you've accomplished, I realized that I missed something, what you said earlier. To start off as a person who has a little bit of trepidation of taking tests and had to take the journalism test 3 times, but yet now we pull back and to see the success that you've been able to accomplish. And I'm sure you're just scratching the surface. You're like a mogul in the making in this media space. Talk to me about what was your mindset during that time as you were overcoming those obstacles, and also speak to the idea that many people, I was one of those people as well, may feel like, oh, I'm having trouble with these tests. Maybe school isn't for me. Maybe I need to change my major. Maybe I need to drop out and not come back next semester. All of these different things. Talk to me about, talk to some of the young people who may be having those kind of thoughts as well.
Yeah. I worked very, very hard in school because I didn't do well at tests. I also just didn't process well. I don't know, like things didn't click for me. And honestly, Tony, even now, there are times that I'm like, I don't get it. Even in the corporate space where hitting mid 6 figures, but still sitting there like, I don't even know what they're talking about. So I had to leave the meeting and go do a bunch of research to figure out what's going on, and always feeling that inadequacy. You know what I mean? But really now I can say it's embracing that and understanding I don't need to know it all. I need to know what I need to know to do what I need to do to move forward. But if I go backwards during that time, it was still something in me that had that grit of like, okay, I'm not the best test taker. I would pray before tests and still destroy. I mean, it would be horrible, you know? So point where you get your test, you just put it in your book bag, you don't even look at it, and you like, I already know.
There's a lot of red on this one. There's a lot of red on this one. Listen.
Don't worry about it. Be like, what you get? Like, I'm good, you know? So even going from then, that something in me was always unstoppable. And so it was like, yeah, I didn't do well on that, but I'm going to kill this speaking part. Like, I'm going to make sure that I can knock this part out of the park, you know, knock this out of the park. And so I would balance off at like a, you know, a B or a B plus, B minus, you know, just to make sure I could make sure I stayed in that space. But it was always having that fire and that grit of not giving up. And so I would say to those who, you know, I didn't get accepted into any college. I remember my aunt calling and saying, because I was in England, and I remember her calling, Megan, you didn't get into UNT, the very school I did graduate college from and got a master's degree. You know what I'm saying? But I remember feeling so small. My brother had gone to college, was going to freaking law school, and I was sitting here like, girl, are you dumb? Like, what's really going on? So it was fighting those thoughts that bombard us to tell us that you're not competent, you know, you cannot do it. That feeling that you have that you're bigger, it's a lie. Like, girl, stop. Just go the corporate route, be regular, and be okay with that. But there was that inner struggle where I just could not let it go. And so it was that constant pushing and pulling. And when you think of mindset, that right there, it is all about it's the gateways, right? So it's what you see, it's what you hear, and what you allow to play over and over in your head. And so even in college, even in high school, and especially now, I was very, very diligent to where even when thoughts would bombard my mind, I would find something to replace it with, you know? So if I felt stupid, you know, it is like, no, I have the mind of Christ. I have the mind of Christ. No, I can do this, you know? And so it was really talking back to those thoughts and just continuing to move forward. God doesn't want us to be perfect. He doesn't need us to be perfect. As a matter of fact, there are so many imperfect people in scripture that he used. You know, Moses had a speaking impediment. He couldn't even talk. And he asked, what do you have in your hand? You know what I mean? I'm going to use Aaron. He's going to be your mouthpiece, but you need to go. And so it's just understanding that God's not surprised that you're not good at tests. He's not surprised that maybe you're not as quick as the person over here, but he put something in you. And that's something, whether it's creativity, whether it's being a comedian, whether it's, you know, being a juggler, the master juggler, whatever it is, he created you for that purpose, and it's going to serve the audience that it's supposed to serve. So just keep going. Go crying, go begging, go toe down, just keep moving. You know, healing comes in motion. Process comes in motion. So I would say just keep moving and understanding that we don't see the full picture, and that's okay. But little by little, it'll all start to make sense.
Absolutely. Megan, you dropping wisdom today. You dropping some bars. I feel like I need to also, so as we wrap up, I got a few more questions. First question I have for you, Megan, is obviously with you being an author and a speaker, I'm assuming that you're also a reader. And so what book or books, I hate to try to pigeonhole somebody to one answer because that makes it more difficult, but what book or books have inspired you along the way that you would recommend to maybe some young person who is, you know, who wants to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah. So one book in particular that I just bought for my niece, one is We Should All Be Millionaires. I did not buy that for my niece. There's a little bit of Christian and stuff in there, so I didn't get it for her. But We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. That book revolutionized my whole mindset. Okay. After reading it, it was like an awakening where I was like, what in the world? Like, is it really this easy? You know, there's a gift that God's given us that we can give back to people and make a profit. Like, this is wild. And she goes into debunking, you know, being a woman and a wife and all these things you must do and you have to do this. And the
Mhm.
moment in which she took back her power from the white man, and that's just what it was, and
Mhm.
was like, you will never be able to define me again. So We
Mhm.
Shall Be Millionaires is one that I tell every single male, woman, everybody, read it. Another one is Think and Grow Rich.
Mhm.
That's the book that I just bought for my niece who is 10. Uh,
Wow.
we
They're
started
starting at a young age.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and she's just very, very smart, very creative. She's in our Young Writers Lab program, and so I'm
Mhm.
like, and Imma drop these nuggets in you while you're young, so by the
Mhm.
time you're my age, millions ain't nothing. You looking like, "Where the billions at?" You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so that's another one, and there's one more that I keep on repeat. It is a it's a red book. It's about As a Man Thinketh. That's what it
Mm.
And that
Yeah.
is another one that I keep on repeat. And
Mm.
that one I use especially for low moments, right? So it's like when I'm down, I'm like, you got stinking thinking going on, and I'm an audible reader. I listen because I got little boys that's always running all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are my three that I'd say for show, you know.
Absolutely. Awesome. Next question. If you had to go back in time and give some advice to the younger you, to the 18-year-old Megan, to the just finished high school, about to launch off into life, besides not getting that apartment,
Yeah.
uh, what advice would you give to the younger you based upon what you know now?
Man. I would tell younger Megan to trust what's inside of her, understanding that you can be your whole self and that's enough. You know, I would tell younger me that freedom is is contingent on you. You are as free as you want to be. I would tell younger me to honestly hit it hard and don't let up. Like I have a small regret from quitting Fame MC, the first entrepreneur journal that I did, because now, oh my God, it would have been something. Because I see people who I was on the path with who
Mm,
stuck with it. And I'm like,
mm,
hey. And so I would tell younger me, just when you put your hand to the plow, don't look back. Keep
mm,
going, you know? And then I would tell younger me to love yourself, like, love you. You are so much more than enough. You don't have to find validation even in your parents. That's not, it really has nothing to do with me. Like what people think of me is not my business. And so I would tell my younger self, hit it hard, make it happen in your 20s so that you can enjoy the fruits of your labor in your 30s and your 40s.
absolutely. Absolutely. Next question. Got two questions left. Next question is, you've alluded to this earlier, so it seems like you're already doing some mentorship. One thing that we're passionate about with this podcast is three things. First, we want to celebrate the success of our guests,
Yeah.
and it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish, what you're still accomplishing as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a writer, as a mom, as a parent, as a change maker. But secondly, we want to also give a visual, you know what I mean? Just you being who you are and looking how you look and doing what you do, we believe will inspire others. But third, and probably one of the biggest things that the goal of this platform is for us to be able to create more mentorship opportunities for aspiring professionals and aspiring entrepreneurs, specifically Black professionals and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
My question to you is, are you currently mentoring someone? And if not, would you be open to mentoring someone, let's say if they reached out to us via this platform?
Yeah. So, am I currently mentoring someone? I would say not on paper. You know what I mean? You've got folks that will hit you up. And I did have an individual that asked me to coach them. And at the time that they asked, I was like, I don't think I'm the right person to be coaching somebody. You know what I mean? But now in this space, I do have a few that it's more touch base. When they need me, they
Absolutely.
call and I'll give information or share, whatever that looks like. But yeah, I'm very, very open to mentoring, to sharing, to helping any way that I can. I believe that we were put on this earth to do just that.
Mhm.
And naturally, I'm a pourer. So if there's a cup, I'm pouring. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
definitely open to it, making sure in regards to balance that we could get a time, a day, and we could be consistent and
yeah.
start seeing the fruits of that labor. Yeah, absolutely. Would love to.
Awesome, awesome. And I want to follow up with that a little bit because I know I've talked to other people, and I've like for some people, this concept of mentorship is like this big, lofty responsibility.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it could be a text once a
Yeah.
month. It could be a phone call every now and again. It doesn't have. It's just a person knowing that they have somebody that they can reach out to and connect with
Yeah.
when they need something that they can help them with. Okay. Last question was really not a question. You had this incredible book, Words Are Magic.
Mhm.
Okay. And first and foremost, how can people get their hands on this book? And tell us about how people should be connecting with you, your social
Sure.
media handles, and all of that good stuff.
So you can connect with me on Instagram and TikTok at Mrs. MJ Official. That's on those two. Facebook is just Megan Jackson. And the book can be purchased at readwordsormagic.com. That's where you can actually purchase the bundle because it comes with a deck of culture cards as well. So if you want the full kit and caboodle, readwordsormagic.com. If you're wanting just the book, you can get it there as well, but it's also available on Amazon. We've got several different bookstores around the US, independent bookstores, usually Black owned, because that's just where we like to venture into. And then, like I teased before, very soon, major retail store coming. Very, very soon.
Coming soon. Coming soon. Megan, I want to thank you for speaking with us today. You took us to church. You took
Yeah.
us to the boardroom. You took us behind the scenes. You gave so much. I wish you much success as you continue to do what you're doing. What you're doing matters. I'm sure that you're going to impact thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of lives. This book is going to live on. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us and share your incredible story, your words of wisdom today. So thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome. And I know that this also is going to blow up, blow up, blow up. And I'm excited to see you shine as well. What you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. So thank you.
I appreciate that.